Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you a simple question, but one that may echo in your heart long after this moment. Now, that's not a rhetorical question, that's a confrontation. It's the kind of question that, if taken seriously, can pull the ground right out from under you. Because most people, if they're honest, aren't entirely sure. We wake up, we brush our teeth, we go to work or school, we come home, maybe binge some shows, scroll for hours, go to bed, and then repeat. It's routine. But the problem is, routine without direction is anesthetic. It dulls you, it puts your soul to sleep. And the most dangerous thing about it, it feels normal, it feels safe. But in reality, it's quietly eroding your potential. You see, human beings are creatures of purpose. We aren't built to merely exist. We're designed to strive, to move forward, to grow. And when that drive is left untapped, it doesn't just sit there waiting patiently. It turns on you. It becomes bitterness. It becomes anxiety. It becomes depression, because the soul knows when it's being ignored, and it won't stay silent forever. The terrifying thing is that it's entirely possible to live your whole life like this, on autopilot, drifting. Not because you're incapable, not because you're unwilling, but because you've never been challenged to stop and ask, is what I'm doing right now moving me towards something meaningful, or just keeping me busy enough to avoid the question? We've built a culture that rewards distractions. We worship entertainment. We glorify the hustle. We've elevated the trivial. We mistake stimulation for satisfaction. And then we wonder why we're tired, lost, and numb. It's because we've traded meaning for comfort. But meaning isn't comfortable. Meaning costs you something. It demands sacrifice, focus, discipline. It requires you to look in the mirror and say, I am responsible for what I become. That's the foundation. Responsibility. You can't have a meaningful life without it. If you want purpose, you have to take ownership. Not just of your successes, but of your failures, your choices, your trajectory. That's why this question, what are you doing with your life, isn't just a philosophical musing. It's a demand. It's asking you to wake up, to look around, to realize that no one is coming to build your life for you. No one is going to drag you into purpose. That's your job, and it's the most honorable thing you can do. Now let me be clear, I'm not suggesting that everyone should have some grand plan figured out. That's another trap. You don't need all the answers, but you do need direction. You need to be honest about where you are and where you're heading, because if you don't decide that, the world will decide for you. And it doesn't care about your fulfillment. It cares about your productivity, your compliance, your ability to keep the machine running without asking too many inconvenient questions. But the cost of that compliance is your soul. And look, maybe you're afraid. That's understandable. Purpose is frightening, because once you admit that your life has a higher aim, you also admit that failure is real, that regret is possible, that you are accountable. It's safer to stay in the gray, to say I'm just figuring things out, while another year slips by. But safety isn't the goal. Growth is. And growth requires risk. It requires you to step out of the comfort of routine and into the chaos of possibility. It asks you to face your potential and your pain at the same time. That's not easy, but nothing worth doing is. And you know that. Deep down we all do. That's why mediocrity gnaws at us. Because something in us knows we were made for more than this. So what does it mean to live with purpose and not just routine? It means making conscious choices every day. It means identifying what truly matters to you, not what your friends say, not what your parents expect, not what culture glamorizes, but what your conscience tells you is right and worthy, and then orienting your actions toward that, incrementally, intentionally, imperfectly, perhaps, but consistently. It might be building something, starting a business, writing a book, learning a trade. It might be healing something, repairing a relationship, dealing with your past, facing your addiction. It might be giving something, your time, your wisdom, your presence. Whatever it is, it has to matter. It has to reach beyond your own comfort and connect to something larger than yourself. Because that's where real meaning comes from. Not from achievement alone, but from service. From aiming your life toward the good, the true, and the beautiful, and being willing to endure hardship for their sake. That's what makes the struggle worth it. That's what makes the suffering bearable. You don't need to be perfect to start. You just need to be honest, brutally honest. Ask yourself, am I becoming who I want to be? Do my daily habits align with my deepest values? Am I proud of how I spend my time or just distracted enough to avoid the shame? And if the answer is no, then today is the best day to change. Not tomorrow, not next week, not with a massive overhaul, but with a decision to stop wasting time on what doesn't matter and start building a life that does. A decision to live as if your choices have consequences, because they do, and not just for you. For everyone who will be shaped by the life you lead, whether you realize it or not. People are watching you. Some are hoping you'll fail, because that justifies their own apathy. But others are desperately hoping you'll succeed, because if you can rise, maybe they can too. That's the power of a life lived with purpose. It's not just your story, it's an invitation to others, an act of defiance against the numbness of our age. So yes, ask the question. Let it burn in your chest. Let it unsettle you. Let it strip away your excuses and your distractions. What are you doing with your life? It's not too late to answer well. There's a truth, one that cuts through the noise of modern life like a blade, and it's this: you are always investing in something, every day, every hour, every moment. The question isn't if you're investing, but where. And perhaps more importantly, why. We have a finite number of days, a finite number of conversations, opportunities, chances to act. People don't think of it that way, but it's real. You're going to die. Everyone you love will too. And that fact isn't morbid, it's clarifying. Because when you realize time is limited, you begin to recognize the absurdity of wasting it. You begin to see that your life is a series of investments: time, energy, attention, and love. They're all currencies. They are spent, and unlike money, you can't earn them back once they're gone. So again, I ask, what are you doing with your life? And more specifically, what are you investing in? Most people don't invest in what matters because they don't take the time to determine what actually matters. They spend their lives reacting instead of choosing. And when you live reactively, your investment becomes scattershot. Whatever is loudest, whatever feels urgent, whatever gives the fastest feedback: social media, streaming shows, useless arguments, fleeting approval. They all scream for your attention, and they win because you haven't identified anything more worthy to give it to. But there is something more worthy. There always is. Think about it. What matters more than becoming a person of integrity, or building relationships that outlast seasons of convenience, or confronting the parts of yourself that are broken and choosing daily to become something better? That matters more. You know it does. You can feel it. There's a voice deep inside that doesn't get distracted by trends or headlines. It whispers what's real, often when you're alone and unable to escape the truth of yourself. And the truth is this: if you invest your life in what is trivial, you will become trivial. And the tragedy is not that you are capable of nothing, it's that you chose to become nothing when you were capable of becoming so much. This isn't about guilt, it's about clarity. You're not guilty because you've been distracted. You're guilty if you see it and choose to continue. Because once your eyes are open, responsibility follows. You can't unsee the truth. And the truth is, your time has value, your mind has power, your life has weight. And what you do with all of it shapes not only who you are, but what kind of world you leave behind. You should ask yourself honestly, what am I prioritizing? What do I reach for first in the morning? What thoughts dominate my headspace when I have a quiet moment? What consumes my weekends, my ambitions, my attention? Is it comfort? Is it comparison? Is it entertainment? And what has that investment produced in you so far? Are you wiser, stronger, more compassionate? Are you building something with your life, or are you constantly consuming, always full but never nourished? You see, there are two ways to live. You can spend your life, or you can invest it. Spending is easy. Investing is costly. Spending is passive. Investing is deliberate. Spending gives you momentary pleasure. Investing gives you long-term purpose, and the difficult thing is, many of the investments worth making come with no applause, no audience, no dopamine rush. You might never go viral for doing what's right, but you'll go to bed with a clean conscience. You'll face the mirror and see someone you respect. That's not nothing, that's everything. There are things worth investing in even when they're hard. Faith, family, friendships, character, your mind. These don't always scream for your attention. They don't always feel urgent, but over time they compound, they grow, they give back, they shape you into someone who can carry the weight of life with grace, and that's no small feat. Too many people chase shallow returns, fast thrills, cheap validation, public approval, but those things have a shelf life, and when they expire they leave you hollow. That's why so many people with everything still feel like they have nothing, because they've spent years investing in an image, but neglected their soul. They've built a platform but not a foundation, and when the wind comes, it all falls. Don't let that be you. Build in silence if you must. Grow in obscurity. Choose the long road. Delay gratification. Tell the truth even when it costs you. Love even when it hurts. Be kind when no one's watching. These are the things that endure. And look, it's not glamour. It won't always feel good. Some days it will feel like loss. But that's the nature of true investment. You let go of something now because you believe in what it can become. You let the seed fall into the soil, not because it looks impressive, but because you know what it's capable of producing. That's faith, that's wisdom, that's maturity. And if you're sitting here thinking, I've wasted too much time already, then hear this: regret is not the enemy. Apathy. Regret means you still care. Regret means your soul is alive enough to grieve what could have been. And that grief can be fuel, if you let it. If you take it seriously. If you decide that the years you have left will not be spent the way the years behind you were. You can start today. You can redefine your priorities. You can begin to live deliberately. You can choose what you give yourself to. And in doing so, you change, not just the direction of your life, but the weight and substance of it. Your life can become a statement, not a loud one, not a flashy one, but a steady, unwavering declaration that some things are worth the time. That depth matters. That wisdom is better than noise. That sacrifice is not weakness. That legacy is built in the ordinary, disciplined choices of people who refuse to waste what they were given. What you invest in, you become. Choose wisely. Choose courageously. Choose meaning over comfort. Because one day, the results of your investments will become undeniable, and they'll either be your pride or your burden. The return is coming, whether you like it or not. Make sure it's worth the price.
That question, it haunts some people. And it should, because you're not here forever, and how you choose to spend your time is not a neutral affair. It's a declaration. It's a vote for who you are and who you intend to become. And let me tell you something that people often forget in the comfort of their routines. You're becoming something, whether you want to or not. And what you're becoming is directly shaped by what you're prioritizing. And what are people prioritizing? Well, that's the question no one wants to answer honestly. Because when you look at it directly, it's often humiliating. You say you value integrity, but you lie constantly to protect your image. You say you value deep connection, but you spend your evenings doom scrolling, numbing your mind to avoid the hard work of real conversation. You say you want a meaningful life, but you trade your hours for temporary comfort and shallow entertainment. And the tragedy isn't just that this is happening, it's that it's happening without conscious intent. You're being shaped by what you pursue, even if you haven't chosen it. People think you can dabble in meaninglessness and then, when the time is right, pivot toward depth. But that's not how it works, because every day you train yourself in something. You habituate yourself to a set of values whether you name them or not. If you consistently choose what is easy over what is right, you will become someone who is incapable of doing what is right when it matters most. And that has consequences, massive, long-term consequences. You become what you repeatedly tolerate in yourself. Now, some people hear that and they get defensive. They say, well, life is hard. I'm just doing what I can. And I don't deny that. Life is hard. Brutally hard at times. But precisely because it's hard, your priorities matter even more. When you're in chaos, when the storm hits, when the grief comes or the betrayal lands or the dream dies, what you've built internally is all you have left. And if your life has been structured around things that don't sustain you, if your priorities have been comfort, distraction, ego, you'll collapse. That's a guarantee. So you need to ask yourself, now not when it's too late, what are you building your life around? What have you placed at the center? Because if it's not something solid, you are setting yourself up for disintegration. There's a kind of moral inertia that people fall into, a slow drift into mediocrity. And it's insidious because it's not dramatic, it's not some catastrophic failure, it's small. You lower your standard here, compromise a little there, stay silent when you should speak. And over time, you become something less than what you could have been. And you don't even notice until life hits you and you're too fragile to withstand. You must prioritize what matters before the pressure comes. And let me tell you, what matters is not always obvious. It's often quiet, inconvenient, demanding. It asks something of you. To prioritize truth means you risk offending people. To prioritize discipline means you deny yourself comfort. To prioritize love means you open yourself to pain. But these are the things that will give your life weight. These are the things that build a foundation strong enough to carry you. So when you say, I want to live a meaningful life, you're also saying, I'm willing to pay the price for it. Because you don't get meaning on discount. You can't microwave depth. You earn it. With effort. With sacrifice. With persistence. And that's the tension most people try to avoid. The fact that the meaningful path is the difficult path. You want a life that matters? Good, but understand that means you'll have to stop wasting your time. You'll have to reorder your priorities, and that is no small thing. That might mean disappointing people. It might mean walking away from a job that pays well but poisons your conscience. It might mean facing aspects of yourself that you've kept buried for years. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is a life that looks fine on the surface but is hollow at its core. A life where you achieve goals that impress others but betray your soul. A life where you're celebrated by the world but hated by your own conscience. And you know what's terrifying? That version of life is easier to build. That version is applauded. It's systemically reinforced. You'll be rewarded for chasing empty things as long as they're shiny enough. That's why so many people get stuck. Not because they can't do better, but because the world keeps handing them gold-painted garbage and calling it success. But you know better. You feel it. You know when you're lying to yourself. You know when your days are filled with busyness that leads nowhere. You know when you've compromised your values just to avoid discomfort. And that knowledge, it's not a curse, it's a gift. Because it means you can still change. And that change starts with your priorities. What do you truly value? What will you orient your life around? Because your answer to that question determines your future more than anything else. And no one else can answer it for you. Not your friends, not your boss, not even your family. You have to decide what matters most, and then you have to live as if that's true, even when it costs you. Because if you don't make that decision, someone else will make it for you. And if that happens, your life won't be yours. It will be a mirror of others' expectations, not a reflection of your conviction. And what could be more tragic than reaching the end of your life and realizing that the person you became was a stranger to your own soul? So think deeply, relentlessly. Examine the structure of your life. What are you building toward? What are you giving your hours to? What are you feeding your mind, your body, your relationships? Because in the end, what you prioritize day after day is what you become. And that will either set you free or bury you. That question it's not just about what you're achieving or even about who you're becoming. It's also about how you're influencing the people around you. Because whether you realize it or not, you are always influencing others. By your example, by your silence, by your decisions, your life is having an effect. The only question is what kind of effect. People make the mistake of thinking they live in isolation. that their habits, their compromises, their daily attitudes are theirs and theirs alone. But that's a lie. There is no such thing as a life that doesn't echo. You are part of a complex web of relationships, family, friends, co-workers, even strangers who brush briefly against your orbit, and your life touches theirs, even when you're unaware of it. Every father who speaks harshly to his children because he refuses to discipline his temper. Every mother who gossips and tears down others in front of her kids. Every leader who chooses what is easy over what is right. Those decisions have ripple effects that extend far beyond the moment. They create culture, and culture in its most honest form begins in the living room, around dinner tables, in quiet decisions. That's where the real formation of a society begins. And so the question becomes, what kind of culture are you contributing to with your life? You want to know what you're doing with your life? Look at the impact you're having on the people closest to you. Are you someone they can rely on? Are you someone they look to for clarity, for strength, for honesty? Or do they walk on eggshells around you because you haven't dealt with your own resentment, your own bitterness, your own cowardice? Because here's something you won't hear much anymore: your responsibility doesn't end with you. In fact, the more you mature, the more you realize it barely starts with you. You have a responsibility to be someone who makes others stronger, not weaker. Someone who calls others upward, not drags them down. And that kind of person doesn't just have. They are built through effort, sacrifice, repentance, and an ongoing confrontation with what's wrong in themselves. We live in a time where people demand rights, but shirk responsibility, where influence is sought, but virtue is optional. Everyone wants a platform, but few want to carry the weight of character. And yet influence without character is a dangerous thing. It breeds manipulation, it corrupts truth, it encourages performance instead of authenticity. And people see through that, eventually. So instead of chasing influence, why not become someone worth following? Why not become the kind of person whose life demands respect, not through power, not through status, but through consistency, honesty, and quiet strength? That doesn't come from appearance. That comes from the daily work of aligning your inner world with what is good, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching, because people are watching you, whether you want them to or not. Your kids are watching you. Your friends are watching. Your coworkers are watching you, not for the performance, but for the patterns, for the way you respond when things go wrong, for whether you tell the truth when it costs you something, for how you speak about others when they're not around, for how you live when no one's clapping. And those observations matter. They shape others' expectations of what is possible, of what is acceptable, of what is admirable. Your courage gives them permission to be courageous. Your discipline shows them that order is attainable. Your willingness to take responsibility teaches them that victimhood is not a lifestyle. But if you waste your life, if you numb yourself with distractions, if you tolerate your own apathy and pretend it doesn't matter, others will follow that path too. And that's what should keep you up at night. Not just what your life is becoming, but what you're teaching others to become through your example. You don't need a title to lead, you just need a life that's grounded in truth. You want to change the world, start with yourself. But don't stop there. Let the transformation in you become a gift to others. Let your integrity challenge the cowardice around you. Let your compassion pierce the apathy in others. Let your clarity help others out of confusion. That's influence, not attention. Influence. And it requires something rare. Moral courage. The willingness to say what is true when it's unpopular. The strength to do what is right when it's costly. The resolve to walk alone when necessary. That is not the path of ease, that's the path of impact. And if you want your life to matter, truly matter, you must be willing to walk it. You may not always see the results. People may not thank you. They may misunderstand you. They may resist you. But the echo of your life will remain. Because truth resonates. Character resonates. Sacrifice resonates. So you must ask yourself, not someday but now, what am I passing on to those who watch me live? What kind of world will exist because of the life I've chosen to live? What is the legacy, not of my words, but of my example? Because whether you build it intentionally or not, you are leaving one. Make it one worth remembering.